joining me. You're here with data science teacher Brandon, and we're going to learn how to use the facet grid today. This is really extremely valuable plot. We can do many plots all at once. Works in a different way than the pair grid and allows us to section out data by by different categories. So here we're setting the row by a lunch, which is one category, and column by another category. So we're going across the row. We're going to separate the data by the categories in that column. We only have two. If we had more, we'd have three columns, and then we're going to separate the data by rows. So this actually works very similar to a pivot table in Excel. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go sns.facetgrid. We're going to give standard seaborn syntax. We're going to give data equals df, row equals lunch. So one category is the row, one category is the column, or we don't need to do both, but if we wanted to, columns there. I'm going to set the height and the aspect. So height is how high it is, and aspect is it 1 times the height? Is it square? 1.5 times? Makes it a little bit long because you'll find these titles can get a little squished up, so it's nice to stretch them out a little bit. So I find a little wider is better in terms of this type of plot. Okay. Then the trick now, so we're going to assign this to G, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go g.map. And so this is going to apply a function. So we're referencing. Just notice that this does not have the parentheses. So you can see there's no parentheses right here. The reason is because this is just referencing that function, sns.histplot. It's referencing that. It's not actually using it in this. We're not calling it right here. G.map. Map is going to call this function that's referenced, and then we're going to apply mass score. So you're seeing the mass score separated by lunch, free lunch, standard lunch, free lunch, standard lunch as well. And it's separated by those. It is separated by the different. You can see these have quite different distributions, which is very interesting how much the food you eat, well, and how well you prepared for your exam together kind of seem to have a really large impact on your exam. As you can see here, free and free have roughly the same distributions, but when they paid for their lunch, the standard lunch, you can actually see it had a very noticeable effect in terms of whether they did or did not eat or prepare for the test. Very, very interesting to see that kind of effect. And this is something you don't really see with the facet grid. Here we're going to do something a little bit more interesting. Doing the same thing here, I put a histplot in the first one. In this one, I'm going to put a violinplot. So everything's the same. I'm doing violinplot, I'm doing writing scores, another continuous variable right here, and I'm doing the same thing, height and aspect. Okay. And one of the most valuable things, one of the many valuable things about seaborn is the ability to use the hue argument. So the way we we'll use it with the facet grid is we're actually using it in when we originally call facet grid and we're setting it to G. That's where we're setting our normal seaborn arguments. The arguments for inside the function. So this is setting the facet grid, the background backdrop. Then we're going to apply a function, histplot in this case, on top of it. I like to use histplot, especially when you have more than one category. You're looking at the hue argument, just to make sure you notice exactly all of the detail. This line really highlighting where they're separated can be helpful for your inspection. So I want to set KDE equals true, and it's going to map, is going to pass this to the histplot, and it's going to give it this argument from this table is going to be across the x-axis. Okay, so in map, g.map, it's being applied to the facet grid object that we created up here. Okay, and you can just really see again the scores, but now we can even inspect them a little bit further and really notice that really the gender has a very large difference in between which one was which, and lunch equals free reduced. We really see the impact by gender and by the effect. Now we can really section across. This is now separated by 3 lunch test scores, and then we're doing the hue. So this is one of the ways that you can go really, really deep into a category and really see how it's different. You know, the subsection of these groups, how is it different than all the other subsections of other groups? Okay. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you next time.